You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. And we are back amongst the dusty tomes, the grimoires, the stacks, the piles, the shelves, the... Help me out here, Warlord Scarr. Where are we?
In the kindling shed, where we keep the fire starters for the piles of bodies. I don't know. We're doing this more.
Buried in the lists, looking for likely candidates to promote to our new, revised, and much slimmer pocket edition of the D&D spellbook. And of course, the rest are subject to the Cull.
Yeah.
Episode 5. I might do reverb on that one. It's become a bit of it's a thing we should do. Okay, so we got all the way through the rest of the B-sides. And now we're on to the C-listers.
Yeah.
As we have reached C. So.
Well, we can start off where my edition of the book starts off anyway. Is Call Lightning. Or as we like to call it now, the massive magical damage is no longer just for wizards. This is a druid spell. I think maybe there's some versions of wizard who can get it as well, but I think it's generally considered a druid or cleric spell.
They would have to be up to shenanigans. In the basic rules, at least, is listed as a druid spell. It is 3rd level, which is where all the big, heavy damage, your first access to room clearers seems to come from. I've got my thoughts on that, but we're going to keep that till Fireball. Right. Call Lightning. Duration 10 minutes. Concentrations. This is something you can just keep bringing down.
Yeah,
and it has some environmental aspects.
Unless you're, getting peppered with arrows constantly, which is presumably the classic way of dealing with this concentration checks. The idea is your druid stays about, I suppose the range is 120 feet, so 120 feet away from the bad guys, and just start every turn, zaps a small group of them for 3d10 damage. Save half, and this is one of those interesting things where on paper, okay. This is one of those things that can either be very lackluster compared to the likes of Fireball or absolutely devastating. Because like if you're in a deep down everything's hitting the fan situation where hordes upon hordes of orcs and goblins are pouring into the room, and they're just going to mulch you all apart unless you clear the room now, then you want Fireball. But if you're in a certain other situation where you're outside, you may be assaulting some kind of base, some kind of Far Cry style situation where you're expecting dribs and drabs of enemies to be popping out of foxholes, and a long-term running battle. This is just an incredibly versatile weapon, because you're just going to be zapping small groups, pinning them down, and going for the long distance. This one spell slot can do you an entire counter, or depending on how your concentration checks last, you could maybe have 2 or 3 encounters on it, depending on how spread out things are.
Yeah, as long as you can stay out of arrow range or the attentions of someone with a pointy thing, then yeah, as a 3rd level spell, I like that it has these restrictions on it. You can't cast it indoors, for example. You've got to be able to accommodate the cloud that it conjures. And if you are outdoors and it happens to be a bad day, in stormy conditions, you get control of the existing storm, and that boosts the damage, and presumably means that you've got a happy little cloud, or angry in this case, to follow. It doesn't move, does it? You can't move it.
It's actually not.
So you choose a point in the sky where the cloud can be accommodated, and it comes into being there. So each, and and I don't see anything about it moving. So it's an interesting one. It's very good area denial.
Or
It's
tower
very good.
defense if you're, if
Yeah,
you're holding a point as well.
in a choked environment or a close environment where there's a valley or a city street or something. This could be well worth defending a cul-de-sac. Right. So what I'd say is it's third level. It has the potential for lots of damage across rounds. It certainly lasts long enough at 10 minutes. That's lots of time. As I say, you could get in more than one encounter. As long as you keep your head down and keep picking targets uh, to clear the field. Now, it is attack one thing per round rather than hit everything in an area all at once. I mean, Look, I've got problems with fireball. It is an unfair uh, meter by which to measure everything
Mhm.
else in its class. But that'll come later, about I don't know, 13 episodes from now. Okay, I think it's very thematic as well. You get to use the environment. You get to take, if there's storm. So if it's very druid based, nature sort of smite you. The
Yeah.
damage isn't bad because it's half on a save is always good to see,
Yeah.
especially with a concentration spell because you're just getting, you're, I suppose, guaranteed to be outputting X amount of damage per round.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
know. As much as I hate to do things like this, I think I'm quite for this one.
I generally like this spell as a thing. I have, however, cursed its name. Like there was one time where I had my players were basically assaulting like a pirate hideout, and the party druid basically sat on top of the crow's nest of the ships that came in and just started clearing the entire pirate village, building by building, blowing each one apart in turn. Very methodical, and they, like, even with their ranged weapons, they couldn't do anything because like he had a height advantage and it was a foggy day, so he just had to point at where their vague shapes were, whereas they had like all kinds of penalties. So um yeah, it like so I it is. I've seen how powerful the spell be, but like there at the same time, it is also a situational spell. And there are a lot of situations, particularly if you're a big dungeon delving group, where it's not going to be interesting. And that sort of raises, one of the spell cull questions is like, do we want to have situational spells that are only suited for particular play modes, whether outside and so inside or what have you? Or is that grounds enough for culling? Is just that it can't be used in every situation, so it becomes a bit of dead weight.
I think that's going to be down to the group. I This is the thing. I have no particularly strong feelings on it in that respect,
Mm.
which I'm going to use to segue into our next spell. What do we got?
The next one is calm emotions. Um, it is uh,
So,
it's basically a burst. It's like the pacifist fireball. Actually, it's a
interesting.
20-foot spear. It's a charisma saving throw, and people who receive your saves, you either cause them to not be charmed or frightened while they're concentrating on a spell, or to make them indifferent to people that they're hostile towards. So it's either make someone not be mad, or make someone not be frightened, or make someone not be in love with someone. It's
This is one of those perfectly wishy-washy spells. Second level, duration 1 minute, concentration. And it is this 20-foot radius sphere, which is interesting. Why don't you just say it? I mean, why the radius bit? In case you're being, uh, in case you're being hated or feared from above or below. Its main, I think its main practical use is as a debuffer on your party during a fight. So charmed and frightened can be frightened, as anyone who's kind of keeps an eye on the Monsters Manual know, is perhaps oversubscribed in the current core crop of monsters. So being able to get rid of that on more than one person.
Yeah.
But it's a very low level spell. I think I'd be. I know I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I think it doesn't do enough for what it is. Pacifist fireball, goodness.
It,
I just don't like it. Then most of it's badly written in terms of its kind of, oh well, indifference. What does that mean? Things are going to work themselves out over the course of a minute, one way or another. But minutes up, we're back to kung fu fighting or, dancing in the streets or whatever it is. I don't think this is really that useful. I'm trying to imagine a place and time to use it, and all I'm coming up with is maybe some sort of chase or some sort of pursuit or some mob scene, but it's way too. Probably most useful in dungeons where you can use it to tamp down on the effects of quite a few monsters that might frighten your party. Other than that, like meh, whatever. It would probably have been better as if you'd probably be better taking something that was going to deal with that monster some other way, or change the environment, like darkness or water or something.
As a sort of a secondary effect on top of a spell mainly designed for actually we don't want to fight right now, go away. I don't think the idea of adding a stopping, frightened, or charmed effect onto another spell is particularly wrong, so that the spell can both be a debuff on enemies and a debuffer for your friends. I don't think that idea is particularly bad, but I'm not sure the two pieces go together well enough. They're
Well, I suppose that the clue is that a creature can choose to fail. So it means
yeah.
you can blast friend and foe with this because it
Mhm.
is pacifist fireball without fear. You're going to get exactly what you want out of it. I just think what you get out of it is kind of a bit meh. So
There's this entire different conversation about the whole elements of manipulating emotions and such. And there's also the stab 3 guys and then calm emotions the other 3 can feel a bit weird to people. But I don't think we're not here to solve the problems of mind control magic. We're here to cull, and I think this had potential, but didn't realize it, and therefore I think we're okay overall to call this one.
yeah, no strong feelings. I'm not going to miss it. Now, let's use this as a way to chain into the next spell on the
Yes,
list.
that
And that
is
is
chain lightning. It's basically nice spicy 10d8 damage. So you hit one person, and then 3 other people must be get hit by this chunk of damage. And then if you want to upcast the spell, you could in fact go to even more people.
this is straight out of Wizarding 101. It's a 6th level spell, which means you're getting much later on. It's very much an upgrade from Call Lightning, in that it has that upgrade feel. It's like instantaneous damage into several targets at once, which is kind of what you want when you are up against it. And let's see, and yeah, so you create a bolt of lightning, 3 bolts that leap from that target to as many as 3 other targets. That's 4 in total, if they're within 30 feet of each other. So again, upgrade in distance. Call lightning would hit things within 5 feet. This is 30 feet. So you've got lots of you get lots of use out of this. And the range of 150 feet means that you can just reach out across most battlefields you find yourself on. And again, it's save for half damage, which I really like in spells, because if it's the only meaningful thing you get to do that turn rather than shuffle your feet, you want to be getting something out of it. You're expending something valuable in a spell slot.
Yeah, sixth level is when they really start wanting spells to pop off, because I don't think even isn't it like only when you're like level 20, you get a second 6th level spell or something. I'm not sure the exact.
I have zero idea. I rarely play spellcasters of it, and rarely any that get that high.
Yeah,
in the
it's
levels.
19th level before you get a second 6th level spell. So yeah, it's 6th level's cut off for where they're saying, yeah, you don't get you're not going to get more than one of these at a time. So
It is perhaps lacking in one respect, given that you potentially get to hit 4 targets with this, and the kind of the overload electrocution aspect of the attack is a lightning damage effect. I kind of would have liked to see, in the way that Fireball is a many target AoE, I'd like to see this with an option to overload a target. So if each of those bolts was directed towards one target, it might add an extra D8 to the damage. So you could build in this kind of overload flavor that would allow you to split it because it's chain lightning, or really drive it into one target because you need that big single target damage spell. But
perhaps you'd have to be sure, like it's not like it's adding each additional one on one person is not adding like another 10 dice. It's like adding
no,
2
I'd like
dice or something.
add an extra dice. Even adding an extra die, I think, would be useful because then you could ramp it from 10d8 to 13d8, which is a good number.
Yeah, I just feel like there's like a few points missing, like a dice of base damage or like one extra target missing for this to really make it feel like it's um a big deal for 6th level spell. I don't know. As I said, I haven't really gone up to high level spellcasting that often, and when I did, I GM for one group, but their big 6th level thing was to disintegrate people, so chain lightning didn't really come up. So I don't know. I don't know if it really does feel like it's worth the 6th level slot. But I don't know. Just looking at it, it feels like it's just like 1 or 2 targets off, or if it had that sort of flexibility thing that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
I think that extra thing was it. But overall, as an iconic spell, I definitely think some version of Chain Lightning should be in the game. I think the move away from just it's fireball but lightning and making it actually feel like it's actually that's one thing I think it should have. Maybe it is literally that you have to go from person to person, because right now it's you hit one person and then it all branches out from them as this kind of lightning tree, but some people preferred was like wire to wire to wire. I don't know.
Yeah, you make it a kind of a pathing puzzle. That you could have some fun with
Oh,
it.
but then maybe you would end up with one person taking 3 minutes to decide which combination of creatures they're
Yeah,
going to zap.
the
Um,
salesman problem. They're trying to they're
have you
optimal
ever
pathing.
watched someone streaming the new XCOM games and trying to throw grenades at people? And the end, like the massive like 3 minute pixel hunting scenes where you're trying to find that one spot where you can hit all
Catch
3
everybody.
aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, I mean this is one of those spells that translates into computer games uh, early and often, and you do see different versions. As you said, the chain aspect comes into it, or the pathing, or the splitting targets. Overall, yeah, pretty good. Perhaps I don't know. I'd as much as I don't like how cheap Fireball is, and I keep mentioning it, folks. Sorry, it's a under the radar Fireball episode. Um, this could, I don't know. I think I'd bring this down a level, fifth level
possibly,
spell.
yeah. I think maybe you bring it down to fifth level. But your thing we need to be keeping it. I think it was just the
Oh yeah, I'll keep it. Yeah, it's a classic,
yeah
and it does something cool. Even if I can imagine a cooler version, but it's
yeah.
I'm not a game designer. I'm not going to pretend I actually know what I'm talking about. However, I'm sure I could persuade you using my charm, which is of course,
Yes.
yeah.
Segue once again
I'm s-
to a charm person. The first level enchantment. Target a humanoid that must make a wisdom save, not a charisma save, wisdom save. So, we can debate that. That's not actually. That's not the saving throw debate is not a one. And it does get advantage of the saving throw if you're currently stabbing it in the throat. So it's good for them to think of that one. And if it fails, it is charmed by you, which means that it can't attack you, and you have advantage on all rolls to convince it of things like that you are the friendly door-to-door knife salesman, or whatever scheme you come up with in the moment.
We had some knife representatives in your dungeon area, and we wanted to call in and inform you of these offers. It's spread around a lot. Bard, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard can all take this at first level.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of these straight from the pages of fantasy novels that you probably wouldn't like to admit you read now.
Yeah.
It's a classic, these are not the kobolds you're looking for kind of thing. How do I feel about it though? Mechanically, it's okay. I think at the very bottom sort of tier, a lot of these spells have to work. They have to be worth that first level. Perhaps you've got more space for utility, whatever, further down the line. And I think there's a lot of utility in a spell like this in terms of managing encounters. Now, it is kind of weird. I can charm something that I can see that maybe hasn't seen me or I haven't talked to. But once the spell's in effect, duration 1 hour, no concentration. So if you needed a friendly native guide in an otherwise hostile place, charm's got a lot. Like, think about the possibilities. You charm that bugbear, they fall for it, and they're like, right, don't come this way, come with me. I'll show you the best way to go. Watch out for that pit trap there that you would otherwise have walked into. A generous GM or a careful group can get huge value from this.
Yeah.
But it will remember this. I think that's kind of cool as well. It is a first level spell. It is not all powerful. It has some downsides. Once that hour's up, it's time to bring out the knives and make that final sale. Or they might, that our friendly Cyril, that's the name for a bugbear. Cyril the bugbear will tell all of his bugbear mates that you're loose inside their dungeon.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, there's a whole other rake of debates for what it means to be charming people and so on and so forth. But as a piece of utility, I think charm person has as a sort of, I like to think of it as the equivalent of knock, but for diplomacy skills. And in that kind of sense, I think it does have a really powerful niche in the game. So, debates aside, I think this is a keeper.
Yeah, because it requires you to kind of be very smart about it. It also requires you to get the rest of the party to cooperate. Best of luck. But if you can pull that off, I think you deserve to reap the benefits for as long as it lasts. Now, just be careful not to give the Sarah the Bugbear too hard a slap on the back. A GM might construe that as an attack. These things have been known to happen,
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of pats on the back, or giving someone the cold shoulder, even. I hope these segues, I hope our lists line up, otherwise this is not going to make any sense. We're moving on to the first cantrip in the seas, am I right?
Yeah. This time we're on Chill Touch. A interesting one because this one has mutated over the editions. Can I just clue people into the version from 3.5 and from Pathfinder?
Please.
That was a first level spell where you gained a number of basically spell attacks equal to your level. So each round you could use up to one of these, and they each did a d6 of damage and a point of strength damage. So it was useful both for sustained damage if you were some kind of madman who wanted to be in the front line poking people in the back and reducing their strength. So it had a different use case as well. It was sort of like trying to be a cantrip, a fifth ed type style cantrip before we had fifth ed style cantrips you use every day. Because it's like it's something you'd use for a whole bunch of rounds, but it was sort of held back by the fact that in the 3.5 days, even with all the cool touch spells that you get on your wizard, you did not want your wizard to be anywhere near the front line. So, it was an interesting spell. The first real low level necromancy damage spell. But and if you were one of those madmen who made some kind of weird hybrid monk / sorcerer who could punch people with their spells or something, because you had prestige classes for all that kind of nonsense, it would be a nice little damage boost. But now we come to the fifth ed version, and it's turned into this weird summon thing from not Family Guy, Addams Family.
Oh, the crossover looks pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I can see it now. Go on.
Yeah, but you just
Peter Griffin as Gomez Adams is amazing. Oh, okay, sorry.
That's fine.
Recasting the entire show.
I'm sure someone's done the fan art. But yeah.
Who's Uncle Fester?
The controversial part here is that it, other than it being a cantrip, is that it's now a ranged thing where it's not you covering your hand in necrotic energy and striking down your foes. Now you're just sort of whistling up this little creepy hand that floats over to someone 120 feet away. So quite they might not even be able to see you. Just this weird hand shows up and pokes them, and it has an interesting effect. It's single dice of necrotic damage, slightly bigger because hit points are bigger in fifth ed. But then it has the really awkwardly worded ability: cannot regain hit points until the start of your next turn. And
is that awkward? How's that awkward? That seems really
well, do you remember? Okay, so this might be a bit of inside baseball, but so one of the things they tried to do with one of the books was basically try to invent a type of boss monsters. I think they're called mythic monsters.
Okay.
They had the special ability of when the first time that you reduce their hit points to 0, they regain all their hit points, and now they have a whole bunch of extra powers. So it's phase 2 of the boss fight. And then someone pointed out this 0th level spells cantrip that any a random wizard, not even a necromancer, any random wizard could have a chill touch and just say, this thing can completely shut down these boss monsters, and I guess they just die instead of having their cool second phase.
I mean, I was going to say it's really useful against trolls, but yeah, that wins.
True. But
can we just talk about how the marketing on this one is clearly done at lunchtime? You're playing the game for the first time, or you haven't played for a long time. It's like chill touch. That's a cold spell, right? That's what that name means. Chill touch. It's like, no, has it always been necromantic?
Yes, it's always been necromantic, but also I don't think it actually. It had negative energy in the old version as well.
Right. And the only reason for this is it's the chill of the grave.
Yeah, I feel like if they called it grave touch, people might have gotten it better. But
this name could be a lot better. Yeah. Now the effects are cool. I do like the effects, and it's now this range thing, and there's a spectral hand and all the rest. And it has a conditional effect on undead targets, making them, giving them disadvantage on attack rolls against you. Okay, and it has a slight climb in damage, as a lot of cantrips do in this edition, as you reach different level milestones. So the regain hit points thing, it's an interesting utility. It's certainly, I can think. I mean, so many different ways that this is amazing. Really, when you think about how flat and without caveat that phrase, it can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. Man, that covers a lot of ground. Healing potion? No. Passing through healing spells or the sort of things that can be
Hit
deployed by clerics?
spells,
Nope.
fighter abilities, regeneration. I mean,
Anything
like,
magic item stuff? Nope, not happening, buddy.
we can have a whole episode on whether regeneration is cool or just annoying. Um,
Hmm.
but
Wow, it's pretty good. It's maybe too good to be.
yeah,
Maybe they got too much in it for a cantrip.
I
It's pretty
mean,
damn good.
compared to the older version, where it had strength damage as an effect, but it was like 1 point of strength damage. So every 2 rounds, if you were so
Ooh.
dedicated to a first level, as a like a multi-level wizard, poking someone for how many rounds in a turn, to slowly reduce their damage output as they tore you apart
Okay.
because 3.5 damage was almost as bad as with the.
All right, I'll tell you how I'd rein this in. I'd make it a touch attack. It is
I
literally
mean,
called Chill Touch.
yeah, that's fair. I really don't know why they made it range in the first place. I guess they didn't because there are other. I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, do you want to keep it though? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
Uh, well, if it gets
Does
the
it leave you
remake,
cold?
if it gets moved to the G's as Grave Touch, maybe.
I
I
was
mean,
thinking Brave Touch too. Yeah, it's good. It's a good name.
although
Okay.
I think that's maybe that was maybe stolen by some 3.5 prestige class, but then pretty much every collection of nouns in the English language is claimed by some prestige class back in the
We're working
3.5
on it,
days.
pretty much.
Um, but yeah, I like what they're going for. This idea of basically it's one of those efforts to normalize necromancers as a career that a wizard can do, as opposed to being one spell that makes zombies and that's it. And
It
it's
is
just
the second fastest growing profession for arcanists behind prompt engineer. Okay, listen, it's got a lot of flavor. I I would say it's a little. It's a can't. It's almost a first level spell dressed up as a cantrip, but
yeah.
that's power creep for you. It's got a lot of flavor, but the next spell has plenty of color.
Ah,
That is.
Chromatic Orb. This
I
is
think we're getting pretty good at this. We're getting the back and
our
forth.
s-
It's flowing now.
our segue game is off the chart. It's on
Off the
fleek.
chain. Folks,
Yeah.
we don't practice. Just do this. All right, Chromatic Orb, another an old familiar, like it's been around forever. What can we say about it? It's first
Well,
level.
I don't like. There's certainly been a variety of rainbowy spells around. This is a low level example. Presumably originally from a Dragon magazine somewhere that just slowly moved into like secondary spell books, like the tomes of magic or whatever, and then it's finally moved into the mainstay of the game. But this is basically a choose your elemental attack, where it's just like I do not want to do the thing where are we fighting ice people? I prefer fire spells. We're fighting the one guy who's weak to electricity. Will take electricity spells. No, this is your. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to take this spell, and it's a single target spell attack. 3d8 damage, and you choose which of 6 elements. So you can even choose poison if you really want to, and just whack it at someone. As a
It's classic evocation spell. It is the Hadouken from Street Fighter. So you throw a fireball, a little one, or
it's
cold ball, or an acid ball, whatever you're having. I
it's
like the versatility of it in terms of the different damage types. If you are inclined to research what you're fighting and discover its weaknesses, then this kind of goes up a notch.
yeah. It's meant to basically just be a an interesting. It's you compare this to the other big first level magic damage spell, Magic Missile. Magic Missile has got lower damage overall, but its versatility is the ability to split the damage between a bunch of people, and be really efficient about it if you're counting hit points in various ways. And of
Not to
course,
mention, it doesn't miss.
yes,
This, however, does require a ranged spell attack.
so it's a
The
bit more
mechanics
all or
of
nothing.
which, what do you need for that? It's like is it plus your int bonus?
Yeah, it's proficiency plus your int bonus or
Okay, yeah.
wisdom or whatever.
So presumably you're hitting about the same number of times. You're hitting at about the same rate as a bow or fighter spec range.
Yeah.
A bow spec ranger or fighter.
Yeah. You'll
And it's
be.
doing 3d8. Okay.
I think the math is something like it's 65 or 70% chance against most monsters of your level.
Its
So
saving grace here is the pocket knife, Swiss Army knife choice of damage type. Other than that, it's like fine. Its range isn't off the chart either. 90 feet is, I think, good. It's probably decent place to have range on this sort of thing. Diamond worth 50 gold. Like you're spending your rare enough spell slots plus a diamond worth 50 gold pieces every time you fire this thing.
You have to remember is that in 5th ed, unless it specifically says gets used up, you only need one diamond, then you can do it over and over.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
I mean, it is one of those things that's a weird change from
that's
previous
fine.
editions that people forget.
That means you're holding it and you're looking at them with an evil eye through the diamond, and then you're shooting this orb in the shape of your eye. You can have a lot of fun with the theming and the.
Yeah, this is a nice themey spell, and because it's good, better damage, but it's all or nothing. I feel like it has a good enough niche to stand alongside Magic Whistle.
Is it just a good day, or did the bees just suck? I feel like we're going way easier on the seas.
I think the thing is we've hit a whole bunch of iconic damage spells, and damage spells and utility spells are easier to. I don't know.
They're easier to justify because they knock hit points off things.
Yeah, it's easier to look at them.
Okay, speaking of something that knocks hit points off all the things, let us enter the
Circle of Death. Can I put reverb on that, please?
We'll do what we can. I think you put a lot of reverb on it yourself. Right, Circle of Death, 6th level, instantaneous necromancy spell, and it is a big fat ball of damage. Constitution saving throw, 86 necrotic damage, or save for half.
So this is an interesting one because this is the same amount of damage that Fireball does 3 levels below it, but the area effect is massive. This is an anti-army spell.
Ooh, 60-foot radius, yes. That is a lot of ground.
On the other hand, you're talking about Constitution saves, which is one of the more common types for if you're up against meaty monsters. It has the you need powder, which does not say it's used up. So you only have to make one purchase of 500 gold pieces of crushed black pearls.
I mean, you're casting 6th level spells. You've got that money lying around.
Yeah. This is
here's the thing. There's not much to. I mean, it is one line, 2 sentences, and it is like it does damage in an area. Do you get it? Is there anything cool to do with undead? No. Does it affect regeneration of hit points or anything? No. It's just damage.
Yeah.
It's just damage. Make them do a saving throw.
I think I see. Okay, when a 1st level spell does damage, that's interesting because you can easily put it up against the likes of Magic Missile, compare and contrast. When you're a 6th level spell, you're asking for a bit of that je ne sais quoi, and we've already done a 6th level damage spell with some AoE elements and chain lightning. And
you're right. This does not have any sauce.
The big sauce here is the massive AoE, and AoE is one of those things where too much of it could be very much a bad thing.
Blowback.
Like we already have enough people arguing about, you should have been a bear barbarian so that I could fireball you when you're in the middle of a pile of enemies arguments. But when you're doing 60 feet it would be very difficult not to hit most of your, if not all, not only your party, but most of the town you're defending. This maybe is why necromancers do not get a good rap.
And as someone who plays a barbarian currently, if you don't fireball your barbarian friend, they're just going to feel left out. So give them a little tickle, little jalapeno tickle there. They'll appreciate it. It is their flex to simply walk out of that going, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Circle of Death. I'm ditching this. This is occupying the space of what should be a much more interesting necro area of effect spell.
Yeah, this needs to either like kill, raise everyone killed by it as zombies, or it needs to be something more than just big black fireball.
Yeah, absolutely. The area effect is kind of cool, but
that just makes it a niche spell. It's an anti-army spell in a game where no one has armies.
Yeah. Okay, we're ditching Circle of Death.
Yeah.
But I have no good segue for this. We're just going for another circle here.
Yeah. So we go from the Circle of Death, the Circle of Power. Which is one of those ones I've completely forgotten about. Hold on. Okay, so
I have no idea. It's 5th level.
30,
it's 10 minute duration.
Oh, it's a miniature anti-magic field. It's basically every friendly creature within 30 feet of you has advantage on saving throws against spells, and basically has whenever you take would take half damage to take 0 damage instead. So it's a big anti-spell defense essentially.
Is that evasion for all?
Pretty much. It's a 10-minute concentration spell, so I guess again, we're kind of up against the niche thing because it is very specific for defending against that one time in the campaign where your GM gets the bright idea of sending 5 wizards against you.
This is for fighting the boss. This is a boss monster spell. And it has its place. I can see. I mean, you're getting a lot of value for. I'm 5th level, so it's not as high as the other things we looked at. It covers everybody reasonably. You might have to get a little bit too close to the boss monster, but presumably he's coming for you anyways. And it reinforces itself in that you get those advantages of saving throws and the half damage is no damage, which all aids in keeping it up, keeping the duration going when you have to make those concentration checks. Not bad.
Assuming your GM is okay with the arguments over whether each and every monster ability is magical. Because
I suppose here's the thing: it moves with you. So the other thing it's useful for, and utility spells should have more than one use, is for walking through the fog of unending death, or whatever it is. You're that bright bubble that the party can shelter inside while darkness goblins leap in and they sort of have to deal with them. And then the goblins explode, but it's okay. They explode in darkness because everyone's making their saving throws and they're not taking the damage. So I like it. I think it's got that kind of.
You're actually kind of selling me on this now. I was just thinking that maybe this would be a little bit too niche, but as a defensive spell, I guess okay. GMs, if you're in a campaign where you have like 9th level, protection wizards and clerics, and they are just fighting larger and larger piles of hit points to such the point of making this the spell not useful in your campaign. Congratulations for basically making the DM of the Rings webcomic.
You have fallen into something of a trap.
Yeah.
Who's casting this?
Yeah.
It's a paladin spell. It's only for paladins or Twilight Domain or the Crown.
I keep forgetting that paladin spells go up to 5th level these days.
Yeah. So I think this is actually really kind of good. Because it's a paladin thing. It's like, stay close to me. Your paladin's been telling you for the entire campaign, stay close to me, you'll get this buff. And like,
And
You,
also,
you always ignore them. It's +2 or whatever. No. Now you stay close to them, or her, or them. They are exuding the aura of protection to beat all others. They're giving you bonuses against magic, and they're saving you from fireballs and all sorts of things. I think it is the power fantasy that the paladins strive towards. Get behind me! I've got this. So maximum points for your paladin. Everyone else just thinks it's easy as fuck. And, so, pardon my language, slipped out. So let's leave them to the power fantasy because you can't reason with paladins. Actually, I think my enthusiasm for this says keep. What do you think?
I think you've actually sold me on it.
Oh goodness! Wow.
I guess, I just sort of imagine the weird degenerate case where people are fighting nothing but giants and ogres, and this never comes up. But that just seems, thinking about it, like it doesn't seem like that's really reasonable, and you can pretty much expect that. Okay, there are people who certainly say that Fifth Ed has turned into nothing but giant battles, hit points banging against each other, and it is, sorry, GMs, it is your responsibility to make Circle of Power useful by every so often just have a couple of wizards, using Chill Touch at range to try to.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Chill Touch doesn't have a saving throw. Never mind. I guess not Chromatic word. Shit. I'm sure there's some low level magic spells that use saving throws. But yeah, give the paladin that moment, assuming they remember. If they prepare Circle of Power, that'd be a really cool moment. Or if they forget to prepare it, remind them constantly as they're being pelted by spells that you could have prepared a Circle of Power today, and this would all not been a problem.
There's no way through the Glooming. No one has ever survived walking in the Glooming. Without powerful protective magics, no party could make it through the Glooming. They're paladins. You might have to really, push this one home. The crayon eaters of the D&D universe. Okay, so
I mean,
making no friends here.
You could cast Circle of Power, or you could get plus 68 on your next smite. So there's a bit of
when the darkness goblins are closing in, you're gonna wish you had that bright, happy circle of light. Okay, speaking of looking ahead and discerning what might be required in the future, we have another
Clairvoyance, a 3rd level divination spell which takes 10 minutes to cast and requires a focusing item such as a jeweled horn or glass eye.
Very specific. Okay, it's. I mean, okay. In the era in which this spell was written, the heady days of the 70s, a drone had not been really conceived as a real thing. But this is essentially what this is. This is your eye in the sky. This is we didn't bring a ranger or a rogue. This is scout the location.
And you know that if you send in your familiar, it'll just get mulched by the very next trap. And
I kind of think that's what they're for, but okay, that's just me.
Sorry, I'm a 3rd ed baby. I remember the time when you would lose like 500 XP if your familiar died. So I understand what people are protective of them these days.
I've always favored antagonistic relationships with uppity animals. So but that's just me. Okay. Invisible sensor. This is one that really sticks in certain GM's crawls because they're kind of relying on the fog of war to give them the upper hand, or to just, from their point of view, to keep things interesting. And simply being able to map the entire scenario is what they see as kind of cheating. It kind of ruins the fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about why that may or may not be the way to look at your game at some point, but it's a classic, of course. I mean, it's Clairvoyance. Its name recognition is pretty strong. What do you think of this version? Oh, and here's another question. When you cast it, Why do you ever choose hearing?
Presumably, if that's for more social situations where you're trying to listen in on some conversation, because much like D&D does not have drones that you can send in, it also does not have wiretapping. So
How do you
presumably,
navigate if you can only hear? What?
you don't navigate. This thing can't move. You're picking a point that
Oh,
was within a
I'm
mile of you.
sorry. I'm thinking of something else. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
fair.
that is another point we've got to come to, which is that all these invisible sensor spells start to bleed into each
Yeah, I
other.
can't remember which one I'm thinking of. Okay, so stationary. It's the meanwhile somewhere else spell
Yeah.
that usually would be narrated to you, but now you're choosing to meanwhile elsewhere, uh, much to the chagrin of your GM.
Uh, mm, I mean, okay. To answer me, it's just like this particular version. It's third level, so it's pretty meaty, but also the effect here is kind of limited. It's a place you've already been in before, and you're choosing one sense to have, and you can't move the sensor around which you have. So, I mean, a lot of divination spells are like this, where their use is very much predicated on the plan that you have, and therefore it's hard to judge them in a vacuum because they're very much about context and how can the spell affect the context that my diviner wizard finds themselves in. I have sympathy for the sort of not scry and die wizard, but the plan, the man with the plan wizard, who is the one who gets the intel. A bit, it kind of running into the hacker problem from Cyberpunk, where one character's job is to just play a little mini game with their own resources and then just give like a whole bunch of intel to the rest of the party to actually do something. Uh,
I
I feel like we have,
honestly, I feel like I'd prefer the familiar at this point. It
yeah.
has
At least with the familiar,
yeah, the
you can have a
mobility
bit of
is big.
personality to it. Yeah, I don't. Definitely a place for these kind of invisible sensor spells. I don't like this particular iteration. I think we can drop this one. Maybe it was a level lower. Maybe if you could do something a little bit more interesting with the sensor, but I just don't think that this particular iteration has sold me on the whole divining thing.
It needs a search function. It needs the flexibility to be able to in the 10 minutes that you're concentrating on it to be able to select different places or move from spot to spot, so you kind of have this jumping ahead effect that if you can see the next spot you want to check out, okay, you can jump to there, listen, see it, and kind of do a mapping that way in a very kind of, if anyone ever played Myst, if you remember that kind of style of motion,
Mm-hmm.
or certain VR games today, as I attempt to drag myself into the 21st century. But yeah, right now I drop this. It's not. I certainly wouldn't take it. Better to send a furry friend. Right. That brings us. Oh, speaking of friends, there's no one so close to us as a.
As a clone. Clone here is a 8th level spell and basically causes you
Oh,
to
yeah.
create at substantial expense, um, including a party just pulling a pound of your own flesh off and putting it in a tub to grow into a mini you. It takes 120 days. It takes an hour to cast and 120 days for the thing to grow to the full size. Cue inevitable. A child version of me has to pop out of the thing because it got himself killed. And all other nonsense, which the spell does not go into. Probably mercifully, because I've seen versions of the spell in older editions which have gone on for pages. But yeah, this is a relic of a time when wizards could not be certain that their cleric friends would be around to raise them. Where we're wizard, where each individual member of the party was assumed to have their own castle in their own, far distant chunk of the world, and they only got together for adventures. And if you got stabbed in the back, between sessions or something other equally Gygaxian, that you could be certain that your friend the Pope would come along to crash to true resurrection on you. So you needed to have Clone Ray to bring you back instead. And do we live in that world anymore?
We do not.
Yeah, like this is I don't want to call the open table every player character for themselves. Play styles completely dead. There's OSR people for all kinds of stuff, but I feel like the use case for this spell has really died down over the years. And then there's my old bugbear of like, yeah, okay, this is a massively complicated ritual to have an interesting once-time magical effect. Why is it a spell instead of a ritual that you can, hand as a magical item, scroll of how to make my clone, or a jar of cloning, or whatever, or an alchemy project you can do in your downtime? Why is this taking up room in our spell book where we have to prepare it as if it was the same as a chain lightning or an anti-magic field, when you're not going to cast it in the middle of a dungeon, you're going to cast it in your own house. So why is it use the spell slot system at all? This is again another example of they just keep crowding out and don't make a proper ritual system for handling all these non-combat spells. And I don't know why they're tying themselves to this concept of advancing the magic system as the be all and end all, because we've seen them try this. Fourth edition was riddled with interesting rituals you could do, some of them even useful in a dungeon, but they've never committed, and the result is this kind of stuff clogging up the spell books.
Weirdly enough, I'm going to leave the mechanical side to you. You're absolutely right. This is a plot device masquerading as a spell. It also falls into the trope of this is a bad guy spell. This is an antagonist spell. This is not really something that you would expect your players to take or reuse. I mean, yes, it's nice to be able to come back, but I don't know. If you get your character killed, you've got another good character idea. I know you do. You've had hundreds of them already. You might as well just roll with them. Characters have their time, and then they die. And a death is a very important part of a legend. Don't get too attached to your characters.
And if you do, that's why you have like your equally 15th level cleric standing right beside him to just go raise dead, revivify, choose resurrection.
Yeah, you silly boy. Back in the fight.
Yes.
I'd cut this on the basis that it is not, as you say, it's not really a spell. It's a lot of other things masquerading as a spell.
Yeah.
I think it has use. I certainly want the villain who has tons of backstory and a whole bunch of stuff that still needs to happen in the campaign that I wrote, I carefully crafted. This is my masterpiece, you heathens. I want them around long enough, even if they fluff the first fight. This is the Manchun spell, right? This is what Manchun uses.
Manchun, a very, very infamous one who managed to make a version of this that just copied him like 27 times. And they've gotten together and killed each other multiple times. I think they just keep cloning themselves. We're down to Manchun, the 15th generation guy.
Oh, the O's just get longer as you go.
Yeah.
Right, Dixit, but I'd keep the idea in mind if I was the GM.
The ideas work. Yeah, it's a thing for a wizard who's 15th level and very bored to do. It absolutely makes sense. I'll
tell you the one other really kind of concrete reason it fails for me is like 8th level. When do you get that? An 8th level spell is like 15. Okay, at that point, you're probably looking to take spells that will change the world, that will allow you and your party to forge ahead with your objectives and change the world. This is just a save point. Yeah. This isn't winning. This is just not losing. And that's fine. But no one ever won the game by playing defense.
Yeah. You're talking about
Okay.
here about stuff like, oh, well, we'll get to them. Actually, yeah. I think the problem is I don't think we've had many Bs or Cs that have been 8th level. Animal shapes, which I think we've poo-pooed on. Antipathy, which we poo-pooed on. Actually,
Okay, one thing you can't poo-poo on, because it would probably kill you, is...
Cloud of Daggers?
Yeah, okay, that's not my best, but don't say it like that. Cloud of Daggers!
I
Don't
mean,
wipe with it.
yeah. 44.
Second level,
Yeah. It's a cube, 5 foot. It's 5 foot cube, center of point. Creature, yeah, takes 44. It's basically a little AOE, not AOE. Sorry, area denial spell, where you're basically
a
filling.
very small area. It's like,
Yeah,
this is the don't come through this door spell.
yeah, pretty much.
Second
And
level, okay.
I mean,
It doesn't do enough damage. Like, I can get 3d8 out of my first level spells, depending on what I take.
yeah,
44 doesn't really stack.
yeah. This is kind of like having a cloud of daggers as a spell effect. That's cool. But this is just sort of this is more like a horde of angry bees made in Sheffield that just sort of bumble around the area and just inconvenience people. I think
Yeah.
44 will, kill a goblin or an orc maybe, but
If it's a bead curtain to a barbarian, it's like whatever. 44 slash. I'm probably taking 4 to 6 damage to this. Get wrecked.
I mean, okay. The one thing about it is that it goes up by 2 dice per upcast level rather than by 1, but they're D4s, so I don't think the effect is that
I'm not
noticeable.
keeping it that long.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. I don't think there's anything here.
I think there's a better daggers. Isn't there some kind of daggers around my head and they get to fling one of them per turn?
Yeah, that makes more
Spell. I
sense.
think it might be in Tash's Hideous Laughter or Tash's Cauldron of Everything, maybe.
Covers your retreat from some peasants as you go through a door is about the best use case I can think of for this. And as such, this Cloud of Daggers I think would drift off of my spell book.
Yeah.
Pretty kill. Speaking of things that are much more effective when they drift, is of course
Cloudkill. Here's another classic C spell of death. I don't think it. So this is a 20-foot radius. Anyone entering it or starting a turn there, taking 5d8 poison damage. So one problem is that it will not do a thing to undead. Although, that might be useful depending on how much you've been studying up in necromancy.
So it attacks con saving throws, 5d8 poison on a failsafe, half for save. And it affects creatures even if they don't breathe or don't even need to breathe. Wait, yeah, that's right. I read that right. Great. Fog spreads around corners. That's a similarity it has with Fireball, I think.
Yeah.
But it's persistent. 10 minutes concentration. Pretty good. 20-foot radius, not bad. You fill most rooms
The
with
problem with it is that it is not controllable. It moves away from you at 10 feet, which is an interesting thing where, in theory, if you were fast enough, you could kind of chase it in the direction you wanted by continually moving. But that seems like an awful lot of effort for a wizard to be doing.
I think that one is just left up to the GM. The GM is going to rule what away from you means in any given scenario. I think it's a line I like though. It moves 10 feet away from you at the start of each of your turns, rolling along the surface of the ground. The vapors, being heavier than air, sink to the lowest level of the land, even pouring down openings. Used correctly, you could have a lot of fun with this.
A lot of World War I style, mustard gas fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite evocative. Great name. The effects represent what it purports to be. It feels it's got a
spoiler for the G's. You can counter this spell with 1 second level gust of wind. which disperses the entire thing.
Yeah, I think it's probably at 5th level now. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So I suppose, yeah, I wouldn't want to, and not to mention this, as with all gas cloud attacks, there's the prospect of blowback.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Overall, I like it. It might be a little overcosted. The concentration is interesting. So it can turn off as soon as someone sticks a dagger in you, presumably.
Yeah.
It's a real good. It's a real good anthill clearer. You know, if
Yeah.
you have a structure you want to clear out, and you can get on top of it, or otherwise introduce this thing in a way where you can kind of control the flow of air. It just appears to be control. It is subject to physics once it's cast. Then I think you can make great use of this. Probably really nasty use of this. It is a poison effect after all.
Yeah.
I I think I'd keep it. I guess. Yeah, I think there's enough interest. It has enough things for the GM and the players to discuss how this might play out in any given scenario. That using it on a ship, using it on an orphanage, using it on what did I say? An orphanage. Yeah. Using it on a dungeon that you're descending through. Lots of potential here for different things. Using it as a stairwell. You
Yeah.
could make good use of this in defense and offense.
I don't know. I think I do like the image of the Cloudkill as an effect, but I'm not sure I'm sold on this iteration of it. I think like if you're asking me to concentrate on the spell for 10 minutes, you should be getting 10 minutes of use out of it, but I feel like you're probably only going to get like 2 or 3 rounds of it, actually functioning before people just start, walking around it, unless they are actually being forced into the trenches or what have you.
Yeah. So this is. I mean, I think it. I'm not sure it's actually a combat spell so much as a sort of out of combat utility spell with some karmic consequences.
Yeah.
Possibly ascending to war crime.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably the. I mean, again, we're talking about a game designed by in a post-Vietnam world, so there certainly were an awful lot of people coming
Yeah.
back with tales of Agent Orange and the like. So
Moving swiftly on from
yeah,
that all too real.
so
You're not wrong.
just to say, I would be okay with cutting this. Or
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think uh, this spell is written. I'm not sold on it. Ideally, we would redesign it to fit my tastes better, but that's not what this is about. This is about culling or keeping, and I would say the
Fair
cull
enough.
is one.
Okay.
So, do we
Again,
want to finish off with?
I think we
Uh,
should. Yeah.
yeah, finish off with a nice classic um, uh, utility spell called Color Spray. Uh,
Yay!
yeah, so you just fire out rainbows out of your hand, and this particular version, it is you roll number of dice, and it affects how many hit points of creatures, and they are from the lowest to the highest person affected. They are blinded for 1 round. So
Okay.
that's a 2 paragraphs of things for a relatively simple thing. Ooh, that was
Sure.
all.
It has a lot of work. You're going to have to do some math. Blinded creatures can't see, automatically fail ability checks require sight, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage, and creatures' attack rolls have disadvantage. It's I think it's quite generous as a first level spell. 60-10 worth of hit points of creatures is going to cover, either one or two big guys or quite a number of small guys. Now, the cone aspect of it is a limitation.
Yeah,
So you have to kind of catch them. It's a bit of a kick in the door, flashbang them with color spray, and then step back and let the fighters and rogues go to town.
yeah.
And in that, I like it. It's kind of a combined arms. It makes
True.
for a useful spell at that level.
I would say yes, but you have to remember this is a disabling spell that is first level that is meant to help you win an encounter in a single blow, and it has competition in this.
Oh yeah,
Much like we have a lot to say about Fireball when we get to F, we're going to have a lot to talk about
Ah,
Sleep when we get to S.
fair.
Uh, and this is basically trying to do the same niche as Sleep, but Sleep lasts until they wake up. This lasts one round, win or lose.
If I
So
recall correctly, though, sleep doesn't give you anything like 60-10.
yeah, it's something like 40, 48, 5 to 8,
Yeah,
something like that.
like I
Oh
think
yeah,
that balances it quite nicely.
if you can get enough creatures into the 15-foot cone radius, which is not as big as you think.
True, true. What's
Um,
that? What's that on the grid? It's covering
it's coming like
6 squares. No, sorry.
something like 5, 6
No,
squares. Yeah, depending on. It's one of those awkward ranges, which is going to end up looking lopsided as you draw it
it's
out.
not. Yeah, it's 9 squares. It's 135.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, yes. If one first square in front of you, then the
But
three
15
in the
is
next tier.
15 is going to be three squares long and 3 squares wide at the end.
No, it's going to be once. Sorry, folks, while we work this out. The first square in front of you, then in the next tier, it's 3 squares, and then spreading to 5 squares. Think of it as a
That'd be
pyramid.
25 5 foot. 5 squares
No,
is 25 foot.
5 square. It's 5 squares wide, but it's a 15-foot long cone, and the cone is
I think
uh,
the rule with the
45
cone is that
degrees.
it's as wide as it's long.
Folks, you've arrived at the part of the show where, I mean, if we were going to edit this properly, we'd probably pause and figure this out. Let us know on our Discord
Yeah,
who
we've been
was
at
right.
this. Yeah, we've been at this for an hour. I'm going to say, man, I came into this really wanting to say color spray was my favorite, but
Oh wow, okay,
man, I
that's
feel like this.
good. Fine.
Well, sorry, not favorite. I was going to defend its case in order to fight against the Scourge and the Sleeping Fireball, the two members of the mafia of
Uh,
iconic spells. Yeah. Well, spoilers for episodes for F and S. But man, I feel like you could, if you're going to have this just be a one round one or done debuff. You didn't need to do this whole 60-10 hit points worth of creatures. You could just have been saving throw. Everyone in the thing has to make a Dex or Constitution saving throw or be blinded. I don't know why you needed to. I guess so that they could be upcast. I guess they were.
that's fair. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I think. Man, I don't want to
Is
poo poo
the hit
someone because
the spending hit points like or calculating victims based on hit points is a real holdover from some of the earliest editions, isn't it?
yeah.
And it persists here, persists with Sleep and a couple of others. Um, okay, it's like I don't hate this. I think it's pretty well balanced. Might even be a little generous on the 60-10 side.
But do you want to
And
keep it?
oh, I don't feel. No, I think I'd cast Burning Hand instead.
Yeah.
You know,
I I feel like I don't having a special version of sleep just for illusionists was I think the reason that this spell was made in the first place.
right?
And I don't know. I mean, we could argue about the whole spell school system and whether it was a great idea in the first place. But man, I don't know. I don't want to fight for the corner of this thing. I think I'm willing to let this
No,
one slot.
look, if you are the cone, if you don't have spell schools, you don't get Harry Potter, and then what
Uh,
are you really?
you're a
I've
different boat.
never read them. I've no idea. I've never read them.
Really? Okay. Well,
You pick up Harry Potter stuff by osmosis, like.
yeah, that's fair. Um,
Right. Okay. So that's it for now. I think We've probably overstayed our welcome, folks. Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah.
This has been the spell Cull
Which we did
episode.
extremely little calling in.
Yeah, a lot of stuff escaped the
I think
knife this time.
told-
Episode 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Our least
told-
culliest episode so far.
We'll see if C can keep up this as it goes, or if it will fall to the wayside.
You're so good at this. All right, folks. Until next time. How do we end these? Any differently? Same different?
We apologize for our need for content that we had to do it.
Oh, we're just saying the quiet part loud now. Okay. Folks, I mentioned Discord earlier, but yeah, until next time.
Keep calling.
Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. Join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license, but you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.